Mr. Ryan Tucker, I am Jeremy Dark. We are feeding the ducks in the Overs and Unders podcast, having a dive in again today about Origin selections. Now the teams are done, having a little peek again at try scorers and having a quick little look at some of the interesting lines and totals of round 13 with all the Origin players missing. Ryan, you are actually feeding the ducks today. You are outside in nature. You are one with the world.
Yeah, mate. The sun is kind of shining here in just outside of Stockholm in Sweden, and the water's looking mighty fine. I feel like going for a dip, but I wouldn't say nature calls. Nature's not calling.
Footy first, you could say, maybe.
Footy is calling. Duty is
footy
calling,
first.
and we, as you kind of alluded to, we got a fair bit to chat about today in terms of NRL and State of Origin. We touched a bit on that last week before the teams were announced, and I think we were pretty spot on with the predictions around the teams. Some of the stuff we spoke about there.
Yeah, I think so. It was all a lot of questions around the New South Wales backline, and I don't know, we probably got at least 50% of it right. I think the biggest shock, obviously, that is no surprise, no James Tedesco being left out or dropped or overlooked, whatever your take is on that, and Dylan Edwards coming in. Ryan, give me your initial thoughts on that, man.
Well, it was like I said last week that I think he's best utilised in that fullback position, and having him on the wing or in the centre is not utilising his full potential. And James Tedesco has been a fantastic fullback for New South Wales for a number of years and captain, but he's not getting younger, and the team around him is changing, and it's maybe time for them to keep up with that. And just some of the stats for Dylan Edwards, he's running 233 meters per game. He's one of the best kind of guys to bring the ball out of your own end. So, I don't know. What do you think about Dylan Edwards?
Like just that stat that you throw right there, 233 meters on average per game. Like, that's incredible. I don't think I've ever, that's his average over this season, or what?
Yeah. So that's straight from NRL.com. That I think that's more than. I think he might be the highest meter gainer of any player. I'll just bring it up while we're talking, but he's he's unbelievable.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever even really realized that someone can average over 200 meters a game. I know it happens, but on the odd occasion, but to average that much is insane. But it is that, and it is you see some small highlights when it's been all about Origin selection and a lot of talk in the media about it. But you do see all of this small stuff that Edwards has done over this year when Cleary's been out. I think I mentioned it last week. He's played his better footy when he hasn't been in sort of, I don't know, you could say the shadow of Cleary, or he's been a lot more standoffish. So he's been a lot better in attack and a lot more involved. But then he's still doing these, what you say in AFL, these 1%ers. He's there. He's getting out of trouble. Some of the escapes he's done for Penrith this year, when the ball's been rolled in or put in deep or put close to the sideline, and he doesn't just break the tackle or get back out. He then gains 20 meters or all of a sudden turns this really defensive play into attack and puts Penrith straight on the front foot. And if he can do that for the Blues, it's going to cause problems. It's all about getting a good start to your sets and trying to play that territory game. And it is the right decision, but you do have to feel, obviously, for Teddy in the situation, but you don't know how it's gone down either. Nobody knows besides the New South Wales selectors and Madge and Tedesco of how it actually went down. Tedesco may have known for ages. Who knows? There's no point speculating about how it happened, but it is for New South Wales. It's the right thing for their side. Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. And just to double down there, 233 average run meters, he's number one. Charles Nickel-Klokstad, 229 in the 7 games he's played. And then you got Brian To'o as number 3, 203 meters. And I think this is something we did allude to a little bit last week, but something that's going to be one of the biggest strengths for New South Wales is getting the ball out of their own kind of red zone and working it out with Edwards, with To'o, even Lomax is doing pretty well. He is eating 183 meters per game. So those back three are going to be pretty solid for the Blues.
Yeah, like just on Lomax, that like it is a bit of a surprise, I guess, that he is in the squad. Obviously, with say Latrell Mitchell missing out and even Addo-Carr missing out. He's like we mentioned a little bit. His defense is going to be under question, but it is, I think, going to be it could be a real turning point in his career, or it could accelerate his career, this opportunity playing for the Blues, because if he stands up and has a big game, if it's in defense or in attack or just like he puts in the effort, I think it could change his career and the outlook of his like trajectory as a superstar in the NRL. Like obviously he's doing a lot, scoring tries for the Blues, but I think there's always been a bit of like question marks around his attitude and effort. And if he has a big game for the Blues and has a big series, then the sky is the limit for Lomax, really, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think the new contract with Parramatta is taking a bit of weight off the shoulders for him. And the only thing we spoke about a little bit, the defense there for him, he's probably has the worst tackle efficiency of those back five. He's down under 80%, 76.9%. No, sorry, I was looking. That's his goal kicking. He's actually at 83, so it's not as bad as I thought.
Yeah, but 83 is still pretty bad.
Well, I mean, Critter's at 81, and a lot of people hold him in very high regard. Even yourself, we spoke about that the other day. When we spoke about who we'd rather have as a defensive centre. Critter has the worst. But then, it all depends about who you got inside you, who you got outside of you. Are you rushing in? Right. Is that the game plan of your team, or are you holding back and making sure you're getting the tackles, just not shutting down? So, I mean, those things are all dependent on each other. But I think, they've taken a team or a back line at least that are in extremely good form. Lomax has got 7 tries in 11 games. He's got 5 line breaks per game, 5 line breaks total, 41 tackle breaks, 3 try assists, and obviously those meters. So, they're not losing anything by putting in Edwards there.
No.
And having those guys like Su'alii and Lomax.
Yeah, and it's obviously better for the future having Edwards there. But just, like on Critter and stuff, it's once again a very Penrith-dominated Blues side. Like 7 Penrith or players that have been in the Penrith system in the squad. I think 5 current players, and then you've got Spencer Lanu and Critter that have obviously come from the club. So it's like how much do you think that influenced the selection of Luai in the halves?
I think, I don't think they probably have that as a point going into selection. Like, hey, we need to find guys that have played together. I think it's an added bonus once they come down to that. You have Luai, or you have Burton, or you have who do you have there, and it's probably once you've made the decision, it's like, okay, we have this as well, which is another strong point. But I wouldn't say that it's probably a determining factor, just because of the importance of all the other aspects. Like when I just did the write up for the Bulldogs and Knights game, looking at Burton is the primary kicker for Bulldogs, and the Bulldogs have one of the highest kick meter averages per game of any team. It also leads to them having better defenses and the least amount of tackles inside their own 20 for their opposition, because Burton's kicking the ball from his own 30 or own 40, and it's landing on the 2 meter line. And that is, an amazing skill, and a good thing to have in your team, whether it's for New South Wales or for Canterbury. And I think that is probably one of the bigger things, rather than a connection between Luai and Critter that was 2 years ago, kind of thing. So yeah,
but like just on kicking, also doing our write-ups for this week, looking at Panthers' absolute domination of the Sharks last week, where they held 62% possession and 72% of the territory. And then sort of having a look, like the run meters for Penrith were at like 1,770, but for the Sharks only 851. And then I was like, well, who was doing the kicking? Obviously, when Cleary's there, it's predominantly Cleary. So I jumped into and had a little look at the player stats for that game, and surprisingly, it was Luai had 633 kick meters in that game. So it shows that he does have that skill there, which can be extremely important in this series as well. Obviously, you're going to be needing those two, like both kicking options on the left and the right, I think, because you're going to be pressured all day long. But it was something that sort of shocked me, really, because you don't connect Luai to these sorts of big kick meters at all. So yeah, I guess Madge knows what he's doing, and it's a very, very, very interesting squad, and they've picked 6 debutants, but nobody that you think is out of place in the squad at all. So it's going to be an absolutely cracking series, and it's going to be very interesting to see how it does play out, especially if New South Wales lose. I think what they do then, if they push the panic button and start bringing in some of the older players. If Edwards has like a mediocre game, do they bring Tedesco in for game 2? But you never know. They might get the win, and then it's much easier to stick to your guns. But it will be really, really interesting to see how it goes if they lose, or if they lose by like a comfortable margin, 13 plus or something. It's going to be very interesting to see what they do and what the media can influence.
Exactly, and it's a determining factor now whether they have made a decision to be, consequential with their decisions, and like, this is the team, we're running with it, and the idea now is to blood these players and keep them within the system for these amount of years, and then continue, like, the Queensland model, you could almost call it, or whether they're still playing that reactionary. And you could essentially kind of read into both of those options this time around, because all of the players are in form. I don't think they've picked anybody that's, out of form. So you could say that it isn't a reactionary team, but just so happens as well that it is a future-proof team. The one, like, I don't know how old Luai is now, but he's still got a number of years under his belt. Especially in that position.
Both him and Cleary are still both, like, I don't know. I want to say under 25.
Nah, I wouldn't.
27.
27. Yeah.
Luai's 27.
Oh, they got another probably 2 or 3 years at this level.
Cleary's 26.
So yes, but it will be fun to see the ramifications of the selections in any direction, I guess.
Okay, and then for the Queenslanders, no real surprises. I guess most of the talking point around their selections, you could start off with having Cobbo on the bench. They've gone for a much more mobile bench. They're playing 2 hookers, as you suspect, with both Grant and Hunt. And then they've chosen Selwyn Cobbo on the bench instead of picking another forward. Where you look at the bench of New South Wales, they've gone for a forward heavy bench. Don't have a backup hooker. Don't have a backup back. They're just going to play the power game by the looks of things and make sure their rotations are fresh. But yeah, if we start there with Cobbo, and then we can move into the situation with David Fafita and what Slater, I guess, has had to say about his selection or non-selection of David Fafita. But what are your thoughts on having Selwyn Cobbo as your 17?
Well, I mean, Billy has said to the media, I can quote him, to be honest, 4 of our last 6 games, we've had to replace an outside back. So that's the first reason. The second reason is that Selwyn Cobbo is a wonderful player, seen him play in multiple positions, wing, centre, fullback. So I think, with the rules in place around head knocks, and just the sheer toughness of Origin, you need to have a player that can cover multiple positions, or a player that can go in for another player that can cover multiple positions that's maybe already in the starting lineup. And without that, you're putting your team at a severe disadvantage. I mean, you're not losing a ton of power by having a player like that on your bench. It's just that maybe carrying the 2 hookers and then having a backup back could possibly for some be a little bit much. But I think it's a smart decision, and he could come in late in the game if they're under, or if they're just in front and need a bit of dynamic ball running in the middle, or tackling presence, and he can fill that role without a problem.
Yeah, I think like he's a big boy, Selwyn Cobbo, and it feels like, or it looks like, at least on TV, that he's a little bit bigger than he was, and I guess that generally happens because he's also like incredibly young, and has put on a little bit. No, a little bit. No, but it's like you saw that like in the younger years of, say, Greg Inglis, Latrell Mitchell, as they come in as 18-year-olds, they're a little bit slimmer, and then they do generally put on a little bit more weight when you start getting into the system and eating properly, training. You're going to put on a lot more size. And I even heard, I'm pretty sure it was a comment from Cobbo saying that he, playing in like high school footy and stuff, junior footy, he played lock. So he's not completely in the stratosphere of being lost in the middle. And with a little bit of the extra size, I guess he could end up in that sort of rotation, at least for a little while. Because when you're looking at covering injuries and things, I think, okay, well, we cover an outside back, but what happens if your big boppers, they're obviously just as susceptible to a head injury or whatever, and then all of a sudden you've only got one front rower rotation on your bench. So you can end up in a little bit of trouble there later in the game with energy through the middle, and your big boys being tired because they're playing at some extended minutes. So,
but I think that's how you think the whole team has to go together, because you can't have Selwyn Cobbo on the bench if you don't have Pat Carrigan at lock, and Jermaine Hopgood and Mo Footaway, Lindsay Collins, all the guys that can all play in the front row or can play in the back row. You have, as you kind of alluded to, being the very mobile team that can play in almost any position. That allows you to have Selwyn Cobbo on the bench and have that dynamic factor. Whereas, if you didn't have that, then you have to pick another forward. There's no way around it.
Because you look at the New South Wales side, and I think they ended up in a situation which has been brought up where Damien Cook ended up in the centres last year and just got burnt like a lot. And they're in sort of a bit of a similar situation now, because who have they got? If one of their outside backs gets injured, I think you're looking at maybe Angus Crichton moving into the centres. Who else they have? Liam Martin's probably not as mobile as Crichton. Who else have you got in their second row? You have Isaiah Yeo can come in, but he's not going to play in the centres. So Hudson Young,
Cam
McGuinness at least can cover like the hooker role if something was to happen there. But because I guess Robson, I don't know, I just have in my mind Robson could move into the second row, but you're still going to have trouble covering the outside And then if you suffer 2 injuries there, you're in like a world of trouble. So yeah, but I guess it's the tactic, and it's hard to plan for an Origin game. You just never know what's going to happen. So someone will look like a genius, a coaching genius, at some stage through this through this series by covering injury. But yeah, we'll see how it all plays out. We can speculate as much as we like.
And I'm going to try and hopefully look like a genius by picking some fantastic try scorers. And I can't go past Jeremiah Nanai.
No.
Second highest try scorer in the NRL this season. He's the second
crazy.
rower.
Yeah. Wow.
10 tries.
That's nuts. Wonder what his most tries ever.
So he won't score another try now for the rest of the season just because.
Yeah, probably because you'll back him. That's how our NRL betting season has pretty much gone, really. That and the NHL, I found I can manipulate the playoffs in the NHL at the moment, because if I just back a team to win, they lose. I'm absolutely on that. I had a pretty good year in the NHL, but these playoffs, I'm just like, yeah, they'll clinch with this win. No.
Yeah.
So I'm just fading everything I do at the moment, which is the right option. But back to the NRL. Yeah, so you're on Nanai as your first or as an anytime?
Well, I have him. I think an anytime is a lock, and then I have him also as a bit of a smoky for a first try scorer, just because of the price compared to his try scoring rate this season. I think you can't go past it. He's paying $21 to score first.
Yeah, it's huge.
Which is, it's not a lot more compared to Val Holmes, who's just on 17, considering his
record.
first try scorer record. But still $21. Hey, I'm looking at it, baby.
Yeah, definitely. And then you throw in players like, I don't know. Obviously, all your outside backs are pretty big, but Hammer scored last year first. I think any of those, but yeah, like these small kicks behind, I think generally pay well or play well. When you think about first tries and stuff, teams are holding pressure, and then there's sort of just that little chip behind or a little chip over in Nanai's case. And then especially having Dearden there in the halves, I think any of your Cowboys you've got to be on.
I actually
if you're
thought
looking at the Queensland stuff.
Yeah, I thought that Nanai possibly was getting assisted a lot by Dearden, so I like that's perfect that I'll just add that into the write up. But it turns out it wasn't Dearden that's been assisting all these tries. It's Drinkwater and
Townsend.
So
you didn't have to say that.
There was a good pretend narrative.
Yeah. I was feeling confident about Nanai. I was ready to put my mortgage on it.
Yeah.
But not anymore.
Not anymore.
Not
no,
anymore.
But I think try score is harder. I think because as well, game one you generally will see a lower total than other games, and I think as well. I can bring it up, but just like the sheer number of games that have finished with low totals also means it's fewer try scorers. It's a logical number. So trying to pick out, okay, if they're going to score, if it's a low scoring game, are they crashing over for that one or two tries, or are they spreading it wide and diving in the corner for that one or two tries? So since 2011, game one has gone under 36.5 points in 11 of 13 games.
Wow.
So it's 36 points. It's 18-18 or 19-18. That's 3 tries, possibly 4. So you're not having. There's not a lot of margin for error if you're picking the wrong person there.
No. Yeah, you're almost just as good playing roulette.
triples.
Yeah.
Thirds.
Yeah, play your thirds. At least you get double your money. But yeah, picking a first try scorer, then it's tough, but it's something it's like you have to do it. Those types of bets, it's kind of like we said, it's like the Super Bowl. Origin is like Super Bowl. You've got to have all your props on. If you don't have 10 tickets in your hand, or at the end of the game when you're half cut trying to work out what's won and what's not, did you really even watch Origin?
Exactly. And that's what I
And if
like
you
when
did,
I
you
when I
didn't do it.
wrote.
You didn't do it properly. So
No, if you didn't lose everything, then
yeah.
but when I did the first try score article, I said, okay, well, if you want to, you may be looking at it from a Queensland perspective, or you're looking at it from a New South Wales perspective. You have your narrative of who you think is going to win or be better. And I looked at New South Wales and I thought, Zach Lomax, I mean, has the try scoring form this year so far. And the way that New South Wales, I can assume that their backline play will look with Dylan Edwards in there, and Luai, he's dynamic, runs the ball at the line and gives it out. Lomax is a great chance to cross, and there was pretty good, like, all right number, $11 to score first for Lomax. But you never know. He could fail under the bright lights, or he could, score 3 tries, and that's the 3 tries New South Wales score.
Yeah, but you can definitely see Lomax. I don't know. It feels like it's going to go one way or the other for him. It's going to be like Queensland are going to just hammer him, and he's just going to be under the pump defensively the whole game, or he's just going to pull out one of these plays that just explodes, and he takes a one-handed catch over Reece Walsh on the 20-meter line and then scores, and then that'll just be the precedent of the rest of his game, and he'll have an absolute blinder and just cause problems for Queensland all night. It just sort of feels like with him it's going to be definitely one or the other there, either or. But I don't know, man. I don't think I've been this sort of excited to watch Origin in a long time. It feels like this is going to be a really, really telling series, and it's going to be a tough series for both teams, just because of all there's a lot of new faces, a lot of good storylines, some injuries, maybe players coming back. Be interesting to see what happens with a lot of these injured players if it goes down to a decider. Because you probably got, I think Cleary was definitely going to miss 2. Probably Munster was supposed to be out for a chunk, but all of a sudden, if there's a deciding Origin game, you see these injury timelines just go and shrink. So I hope
maybe
it does.
Get Latrell back in the mix, or
because the Bunnies are going to go on a run now, or what? Yeah, what are you thinking? Jack Whiten in the halves, so the Bunnies are undefeated in one game now.
Yeah, no, I had a bit of a chat with a mate of mine, Damo from the Switch. He said Latrell's a flog, but he's a big game flog. So maybe that's to someone in the decider. If there is an injury to Crichton or Suoliti or something, and okay, who do we bring in? Do we put Burton in the centres, or do we bring back Latrell with a bit of big game energy, and give him that platform to run the game a little bit? It'll be very interesting.
Yeah, because it is that, trying to decide, okay, do you feel better that Latrell's not playing in the series, or do you feel worse as a Queensland supporter? It's kind of tough. I don't know. Most of me, I think, definitely feels better that he's not in the team, purely just for his explosive game-breaking ability. If this game's a grind, you don't want the ball in Latrell's hands in the 75th minute of the match when you're one score in the lead or one score behind, because you just know that big fan's going to come out and he's going to explode and make a line break or set up a try. So that sort of makes you feel better. But then you look at, okay, well, who replaced him? You've still got Zach Lomax that can do crazy stuff. this. And Crichton. Look what he did in the multiple grand finals for Penrith. Right. So, yeah, it's much of a muchness, but a part of me definitely feels that it's better that he's not there.
Yeah, I agree.
Round 13.
Yeah.
A quick snippet of what round 13 has to offer. Very, very tough round to tip, as usual. I think I had a quick look at last year and the rounds that were heavily Origin affected, trying to find some sort of trend for overs and unders or favourites and underdogs. And you know what? It was pretty well dead even. The overs and unders were 3 to the overs, 2 to the unders in round 13, 2 to the overs, 3 to the unders in round 16, and 3 to the overs and 2 to the unders in round 19. And then when it comes to favourites, round 13 was 3-2 to the favourites. Round 16 was 4-2 to the favourites, and round 19 was 3-2 to the favourites. Sorry, round 16 was 4-1. So, yeah, so that's the only no real trends basically. I think when you're looking at it, I really thought the overs and unders would be affected in some way, but it's sort of you definitely have a double edge on that because there's a lot of your attacking players are out, but then all your defensive structures are also completely destroyed with your key connections on the outside and stuff. So yeah, definitely nothing, no real data there. It was one of those rabbit holes you go down when you're looking for a little edge in trends, and it just led me to making my own decisions instead of having to rely on the statistics, which hasn't gone really well. So
They're good ones. I like that.
Yeah.
Now, one of the big ones I think is going to be interesting. I did a preview in the Knights and Bulldogs. So both these teams are really stingy on defense, not giving up many points at all. I think they're both top 5 in the league for opposition points. And then, just as I alluded to early in the piece about Burton's kicking, if he is not getting the Bulldogs out of trouble and not getting him into a position to score, and they're already scoring quite low, is the game going to get bogged down in the middle a lot? Newcastle are completely free from Origin effects, and this game, I don't know if the total go over 20 points. I've put a bet on for under 20.5.
Wow. But it could be like Newcastle should, in theory, be able to win that like fairly comfortably. You've got no Burton, who has been an absolute superstar for Canterbury. And then Kiko also out, right, for a month.
Yep.
So it's hard to see a lot of their attack, at least the Canterbury attack, has been definitely those two guys. But I went all in on them 2 weeks ago when they played Raiders, and they made a couple of mistakes and the Raiders put on some easy tries. And then I flipped last week and bet against them and made that mistake, and their defense just held up incredibly. So yeah, obviously they've played much better defense in the majority of their games than they've played bad defense. So, and they definitely got the field position last week with the Dragons putting the ball down. So yeah, I think you have to rely on their defense, like you've said. I think it's a good bet. It's a smart bet. Even though Newcastle have been winning games, they haven't definitely not lighting up the scoreboard and then coming up against a defense that maybe isn't really affected so much, the Canterbury defense. I think definitely a backable under 20.5. I think it's pretty solid stuff.
The total, I think, is 43.5 on across the book. So I did a good.
What were the odds on 20.5?
11 or 12 or something.
Whoa.
No, something, or it might have been 7. but no, I think 20 and a half was 11, and then 24 and a half was 7 or something like that. But I multi that up with Canterbury to cover on alternate line 6.5. So I think if the total it turns out to be could be 12-10 or 10-8, then anything in a low score, you definitely have a very good chance of covering just on one score or two scores,
Yeah,
effectively
definitely.
6.5. So
yeah. But yeah, and I was sort of looking at, I think it's a really, really big week for basically both of the top two teams, Panthers and the Sharks. But the Sharks are coming up against the Eels. Now, obviously, things have gone a little bit, I don't know, sideways quickly with the Sharks. Obviously, they got belted 42-0 last week, and then this week they lose Nico Hines, McInnes to Origin. And then they're coming up against the Eels, who get Moses and Gutho back. They do lost Jermaine Hopgood, but they pretty much come out of this Origin period pretty clean to what they usually do, with still holding Fisher, Campbell Gillard, and Paolo, who often feature in the Origin side. So Dylan Brown going back to his comfortable position of playing 5'8". You got Mitch Moses coming back in, Gutho at the back. I think the Eels are definitely a good shot this week. They do start as favourites. I can't remember exactly how much it was. It was a couple of points. But definitely interesting to watch how it actually goes for the Eels now after they have been absolutely dreadful. The last month and a half. So I don't know. They were 2-1 with Moses in the team. I think they lost only to in a back and forth battle with Manly. But their defense has been awful, and obviously that doesn't help. But I think with Mitch Moses, you play this territory game again, and all of a sudden your defense improves a little bit at least to what it was. So
yeah, exactly.
Going to be
They're
interesting for them.
They're 2.5 point favourites, and I think it's a fair number given that as we spoke about with Burton, the kicking game, Moses is just as important to Parramatta's game plan with his kicking. And we've seen that with Parramatta shifting around, 3 or 4 different halves pairings and putting Brown at half, Brown at 5'8", bringing in Dejan Arce or whoever it could be, because they just couldn't get that. Moses is the perfect halfback for their game plan. He has the kicking, he has the passing, he has the structure. And without that kicking, they're trying to fill up in other areas. And Gutherson also takes a bit of that pressure away. He doesn't kick often, but he can be there as that other option if you're getting pressured. And I think they're just two massive ins for this team that are still struggling from coming off that grand final defeat to Penrith 2 years ago. They just haven't really recovered.
Yeah. And I think the thing that Moses, Gutho hasn't been out that long, but the thing that sort of hurt the Eels the most, they lead the league with 34.2 tackles inside their attacking 20. And obviously, what are they in the points? They are ranked 13th in the league in actual points scored. So they're getting chances. They just don't have that quality and creativity inside 20 when Moses isn't there, because all the focus is just on Dylan Brown. So that's all you just need to go focus on the side that he's on. And obviously the fullback can play that position and make sure that he's there to cover. So, it's going to be really interesting to see how they go. I back the Eels to get up and to cover there against the Sharks, but I think it's more of a future looking to them and to see how if they can salvage something of their season now that they've got their players back.
Yes, well, lots of stuff happening. Only 5 games over this weekend, as you kind of alluded to, so we're getting a bit of a break, but still a game every day, at least. A lot more time to dig in, find some good value shit.
Yeah, but it's tough. I think you got to dive pretty hard and look at how all these trends with players being out and in and all of that sort of thing. So you got to go deep, but you get the reward if you go deep.
So then you go deep. Are you following the trends or are you ignoring the trends?
Yeah, that's the thing. Depends. Depends on your personal opinion.
Exactly. Oh, mate. It's been a
Joys.
blast,
It's
as
been a
always.
pleasure. Enjoy the scenery in your afternoon, my friend, feeding the ducks. Farewell.
Speak to you again soon.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.